I grew up playing old school MMOs as a kid. My fondest and earliest memory of an MMO was EverQuest Online Adventures on the PS2. Now, I know it's not the oldest MMO in the book, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate history and the games that come before it. In fact, nostalgia is one of the big reasons why I continue to play MMOs on the side. Lately, the MMO scene has been a bit repetitive, which is funny to say as an MMO player. To be clear, the current prevalent MMOs in the market today are the same old guard as before. World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Final Fantasy XIV, all old MMOs, but nothing exactly revolutionary. Now, before I absolutely get pitchforked to death, I am well aware that Final Fantasy XIV is getting its evolution system, ESO just launched its 50th update, Season 0, and Guild Wars 3 just got recently announced, to name a few. I am excited for all of those things, and the MMO scene is shaping up to be absolutely wonderful within the next few years. And this is great news, especially after Ashes of Creation. What a bummer. But sometimes you just want to take a trip down nostalgia lane. And this game aims to take us back to the early 2000s, where polygons for models had only one comma. It's that old school. But is nostalgia enough to keep a new player invested into a world that demands a lot of time and exploration? My playtime with this game wasn't exactly buttershine and sunflies, but I can at least tell you that I was surprised at what I saw. Let me introduce you to Monsters and Memories. But before I continue, please like, comment, and sub. It means the world to me, and your support gives me the motivation to just keep doing content like this. So I appreciate you, and I wish your dreams also come true. Now it's time to hit you with a little bit of backstory. Monsters and Memories is a passion project headed by Niche Worlds Cult, a small but robust team of talented developers led by a former Sony Online Entertainment lead designer, Sean, who was well involved in projects such as EverQuest and DC Marvel Universe. Sean and team are trying to bring back the era of old school MMO gaming. How old school? Well, do you know what MUDs stands for? If you didn't, you were probably born past the year 2000. I mean, I didn't even know what it stood for before I looked it up. MUD stands for Multi-User Dungeon, and it is a multiplayer virtual world that is described entirely in text. Players read written descriptions of environments, items, and events, and interact with the world by typing commands. And that is essentially the core of Monsters and Memories. It is mostly text-based, and I'll go over that in the gameplay review section, which is coming up soon. It offers your traditional MMO classes, Bard, Warrior, Rogue, Cleric to name a few, and the party system is as classic as it gets. Fantasy races are also available to you, so you can customize your fantasy hero decently, each race having its own unique stat distribution. And the music is super nice. So far, so good. I won't cover the lore too much as I primarily spent the limited time I had trying out certain things and exploring the map as best I could and figuring out what to do, so we'll jump into the bread and butter, the gameplay. I chose to make a human bard and dump the majority of my points into charisma because that's what bards do. You spawn in Night Harbor City, and right off the bat, you will be absolutely confused. I was, and that's okay. Part of the old school MMO charm is that it does not hold your hand. The developers expect you to explore the old classic way, kind of like when we only had paper maps and verbal instructions for directions instead of your iPhone maps. It's admittedly overwhelming at first, but it's normal. It's a brand spanking new MMO system that you have to get used to, and there is a handy new player guide button that you can press that explains most of the basics on how to navigate the world and its critical actions. I won't be going over specifically what every basic action does because it's all in the guide, just read the manual. I spawn in and I immediately get a note in my inventory that recommends me to see my classed quest giver. Now, as I said earlier, there's no compass, no directional markers. It's old school style. Here is where MUDs is supposed to shine. If you want some sort of directions, you have to walk up to NPCs, hail them with H, not the auto attack key or you will die. I learned that the hard way. And then type in the text bar your question. In a way, it was pretty cool at first. Being able to interact via text with these NPCs was something that blew me away. You were sort of really conversing in your own words to progress the conversation, which is such a different feeling from today's MMOs where dialogue is mostly scripted and your choices are already written out for you, and you have to choose which one sounds better for your character. But here, you have to type out your responses in sentences, and I thought that was a refreshing take. Finished the fetch quest, and after asking my teacher to send me out on a real adventure, I finally got a real man's task: scouting a camp and retrieving items. I immediately got to exploring past the first zone, but I was too eager to start my adventure. I almost got killed by a bipedal wolf thing, and I knew I was too weak. I was already hit with an immediate level wall. It's time for combat. I knew that to complete my quest, I had to grind out the first zone to get decent gear and levels. And I will say, despite the game feeling old, I actually quite enjoyed the combat. Very reminiscent of the EverQuest days, this is one of the key shining jewels of Monsters and Memories. A lot of thought and effort went into the combat system, and it absolutely shows. The party mechanic and experience was absolutely classic, and it brought back nostalgic memories from the EverQuest Online adventure days. The class balance is getting better each day, and the lethality of the monsters are absolutely present. When you die in this game, you drop everything on death, even your coins. A very cool feature in my opinion. So when you die, you have to do what is called a corpse run, where you basically run naked to your corpse. It's one of the most brutal things to have ever happened to you, but it is a real consequence, and it makes you play with much more thought into every action that you do. Something I feel like is missing in today's MMOs. One slip up, and it's a brutal run back to your grind spot. Pulls have to be accurate, heals need to be on point, and your rotation is even more critical. It gives you such a cool degree of danger, but that's just me. I spent the majority of my beta time just grinding levels away in parties because honestly, party play was addicting as a bard. I've always enjoyed supporting groups by playing healers and tanks in MMOs, and Bard is my go-to class for anything MMO related. I played at least 40 hours in total, and I didn't really explore much outside of Night Harbor, but I imagine the zones are nicer out there. There were many quests to do in the city, you just have to ask NPCs if they need help or if they have any work to do, but you know it's a little bit of a stretch when the majority of the players just start the quests from the NPCs just to take their bag, and never to do said quest. So I grinded, and I absolutely was a big fan of this type of combat. Text-based combat took some time for me to get used to again, but it was a marvelous trip to the old days. I know there were some things that I said that make it sound like I wholly dislike the game, but that's not true at all. In general, I really did enjoy my time in the world and its aesthetics. There's cool little nuances in the game that I thought were very clever. Swimming in the bathhouse gives you a bit of a charisma boost, which does affect shop prices. Staying in taverns does not drain your food or thirst, and the in-game community was some of the most chillest individuals in an MMO that I've met yet. I can tell they were very passionate about the game. Now, out of all of this, I don't think that Monsters and Memories is going to be a very popular MMO, but I think that is what the developers are actually aiming for. They know their target audience, and they are going to double down on the charm and mechanics of old school MMOs. It's not going to be super flashy or have women with massive mountains, and that's okay. It seems like they are not looking to attract a wider audience, rather they are looking to revive an MMO that could very well create its own niche within the MMO market. I don't think it's really fair to compare this game to Guild Wars or Final Fantasy XIV. I feel like it's its own genre within the MMO market. But personally and truthfully, I will not be returning to Monsters and Memories, but not because it was a bad game, but because I enjoyed my nostalgic trip. What I mean is that there is a reason why MMOs have moved away from this style of gameplay and evolved over time. It doesn't necessarily mean Monsters and Memories is bad at its core, but fundamentally, it is outdated, relying heavily on nostalgia. They say that art is only as beautiful as the observer can make of it, and I'm sure that to its niche audience, it is a wonderful masterpiece that is a faithful rendition of classic MMOs. To me, it is a piece that deserves recognition, appreciation, and acknowledgement of how games were back in the day. But that is where I would end it. If I could sum up Monsters and Memories, I would say it's a beautiful antique store with historical pieces absolutely worth pondering over. But the store's door is chained and barred up. Once you get past the chains and bars with your patience, I think you'll stumble across a nostalgic portal into the land that was before, faithfully recreated. I think with a bit more polish in the questing aspect and a little bit of QOL, Monsters and Memories can very well take a slice of the MMO pie. If you enjoyed this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and sub. I do try to respond the best I can to all the comments. Love y'all, stay hydrated, and I'll see you at the next one. Take care.